I don't want to sound too mystic, but I hope that you can identify with me that when I say that the heart is important, and as we lay our hands on the heart, don't just do it as a symbolic way or ritualistic way. Would you do it with really treasuring your heart? Yeah. Of course, our body is important because body and the heart is integrated. But this spiritual heart, this is where everything begins. And we have to find our center. We have to understand the core of our being. This means that we have to be good stewards of our heart. We have to really care for the health and the well-being of our hearts. But today, it seems like we're losing heart everywhere. How's your heart? What? It surprises everyone that anyone would care about your heart. That's why I would like to introduce this new greeting to you. Start asking this question, how's your heart? I really want to know what's happening to your heart. Where's your heart? Remember, after Adam and Eve sinned against God and they rebelled against God, there was this sense of alienation. They had this tremendous sense of shame and guilt, and they were alienated from God. And one of the first things that God says as he approaches Adam and Eve, who's trying to hide from him, is, where are you? It is actually an existential question. What's happened between you and me? Where's your heart? Your heart is so removed from me. I have a heart for you, but what about your heart for me? It's a relational question that the Lord is asking. But in this modern world, we are so preoccupied with everything other than the heart. The externals, the peripherals, the superficial, artificial. And we make judgments of others. We evaluate even our own selves based upon these externals. We're more interested in public images, our reputations, our financial status, our sense of future security. Some of us, we're really into charismatic gifts, talents, potentials. The Hallyu phenomenon, when it happened in the late previous century, and we're right now heavily into Hallyu, I was very excited about it. I said, finally, there's going to be a renaissance of art and culture. But more and more, I've been observing what's happening to Hallyu, coming to realize Hallyu is basically celebrating a lot of the peripheral things, and we're kind of losing the sense of the heart. Hallyu phenomenon, Bollywood phenomenon, Hollywood phenomenon. They elevate, exalt the things of the flesh. What about at our school? What are we emphasizing? Of course, we are emphasizing academic grades, accomplishing our workloads, study loads, to get the grades, to receive the degrees, knowledge, information, theologies, doctrines, even Bible, but Bible knowledge. The knowledge remains in our head, but how is it going to sink down into our hearts so that it produces fruit and it causes us to be productive? That's a different story, it seems. Some people get into religiosity, the rituals, the formalities. We've done some rituals today. We continue to do rituals. We come to worship services, prayer meetings, intercessions. But we have to be careful that these are not just formalities, just rituals, just going through the motions. We have to remember the heart is the most important thing when we gather together. And there are some people who are emphasizing spiritual disciplines. They feel that if they do these things more, read more Bible, pray more, fast more, go on a pilgrimage, all of these are important, mind you. But what use is it if we gain all of this but we lose the soul or the heart in the process. That's why I really appreciate Augustine when he established his priority on the interior life. He's known as the father of psychology of Christian spirituality. And amongst his writings, I really appreciate his confessions. And this is basically a testimonial book of how he's struggling to understand himself, his inner self, and he's questing for truth. What is the truth? And he finally arrives at that truth. And we know that famous saying by Augustine, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless unless they find rest in you." That he realized the center, the focus should be God, and only God could fill the void that's in his heart. But there's other writings, and I'm beginning to appreciate the writings known as soliloquies. And it has to do with his inner dialogue with himself. And because he's a very reason-oriented person, he lets reason question him, and he's responding to reason. So in one section, he says, the reason asks this question, "What do you desire to know?" Augustine, what do you desire to know more than anything? And Augustine responds by saying, "I want to know God and the soul." And reason asks, "Nothing more? You sure about that? There are so many other necessities in life. It's not just God and the soul." But Augustine says, "Nothing at all. Just God and the soul." So you see, he's talking about the thing that I want to emphasize today, the state and the condition of our inner soul, heart, our heart towards God, our heart towards others, our heart towards the situations that's happening in the world today. We are heartbroken by what's happening in Israel right now. We're heartbroken by what's happening in Ukraine, in North India, amongst the tribal people. We're heartbroken by what's happening with North Korea. And so we need to be in touch with the heart. As Augustine said, nothing at all. I just want to know God and the soul, because once I know it, then it'll be easy. He's also the guy who said, just love God and do anything you want. He's not talking about libertinism. He's not talking about licentious way of life. He knows if you hit the core of loving God with all your heart, you will do as God would want you to do. So he doesn't worry about the secondary. He doesn't worry about the peripheral. He's more concerned about the core, because if you lose the core and you get the secondary, you get the peripheral, you get everything else right, then you have lost your soul. The most important thing. So we need to really start caring for soul. That's what we're called to do as ministers of the gospel, pastors. We are into the business of soul care. Yes, bodily care, material needs care, but soul care, heart care, because heart is the wellspring of our life. So what is the condition of your heart today? Where are you at? How are you doing in your heart? You see, we need to properly diagnose the condition of our heart.